today, replacing last week.
Which day is it on? Sunday?
Sunday is the last. Because today
Sunday
I see it
info.
Sunday
Okay. Let us check.
Okay, I sent you WhatsApp now. Okay, just a remind. Hello, Srinath, how are you?
Good evening. How are you? Good, good.
Very good evening. How are you? It's at 7:05 now, so I think we have to start. You can see the screen clear now, Srinath?
Yeah, I can see.
Okay, perfect. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Maybe the gentleman would be a little bit late. It's 7:05. I think we need to start. Today is very busy day for us. We have many sections to talk about it. At least the 3 sections of them we need to address it. So let us start.
Okay.
This is regarding the NFPA 25 for inspection, testing, maintenance for the water-based fire protection system. So this one is mainly related to a fire protection with wet rise systems or wet piping system for the sprinkler, which is commonly used for us for most of the cases what we have it. And it has a significant part of questions from the civil defense as well. Civil defense, they might asking about the testing and inspection and maintenance for the equipment, whatever related to the fire pump and the standpipe and the sprinkler. We have tested for all the classes for the NFPA 13 and the 14s, etc. The test related for the individual system. However, it is repeated again under the NFPA 25. Mainly 25 is talking about the equipment related to the fire pump system and the standpipe, which will be the valves, the equipment for the fire pump itself, the engine, electrical drive or diesel drive, and the pump itself. So the main part for this one, it will be the fire pump, which is the heart for the fire protection system. It's related to different systems of the standards, which related to NFPA 20, NFPA 25, which we talk about it, especially for chapter number 8, and the civil defense guidelines and the requirements of the QCDD references, which I have shared with you the testing and maintenance procedures and periodic retest related to the life safety equipment for electrical and mechanical. it is covering both mechanical and electrical. You have to focus for the mechanical part as well. Keep in mind, there is a very few items where there is I will not say a difference, but there is some requirements for the civil defense for the periodical test and maintenance. If it is matching with the NFPA, or maybe 3 or 5% of the test, it is different from the NFPA. A little bit higher requirements than the NFPA itself. You can see it if you open the PDF file of the QCDD, where I shared it with you. You can see the periodicals for the inspection and the testing for each system. And it is divided section-wise, and when would be required for the testing, when would be required for the inspection, and it is showing the significant test inspections and the maintenance procedures as well, whatever it is semi-annual or annual. Most of the cases, it is related, it is matching 100% with the NFPA. However, I share it with you for reference in the exam. If there is any difference, we have to follow the QCDD as well. Just to sum it up for the pumps, which we talk about it at the fire pump, for the end suction, vertical inline, horizontal, split case, and vertical turbine. QCDD, they are asking for the life safety device to be UL listed and FM approved. Do you have an idea what is the UL and the FM?
Yeah.
Yes. What is your understanding for these two ones?
We can use the components only they are UL listed or FM approved, which is under authorized laboratory or factory mention.
What is the meaning of UL and FM? What is this entity?
Seems like a standard to use here.
Okay. Let us go in details for the UL and the FM. Sometimes QCDD are asking about the definitions for the UL and the FM. What is the relation? What is the services they are providing, etc. For the UL, it is the Underwriter Laboratories, which is abbreviation as UL. It's a global independent safety science company. So it is not related to any organization or standards, but they are a global independent safety company. They are represented in many countries, and they have their own test related to the life safety standards. So whoever manufacturer sending their product for the UL for testing, they will take the approval for the UL as they are following the standard test related to UL, and will use the mark of UL on the product. Many of the authorities, especially for the civil defense and the authorities having requirements for the life safety devices, they are requesting to have the UL tested, listed, approved test, which is giving an assurance for the companies and the authorities that whatever product complying and the testing according to UL, it means it is giving a high reliability and the trust for the product and the compliance. For the FM, it is almost the same, giving the same services as UL. They have their own tests, they have their own certificates for the FM. If the product is approved by FM, it means that it is giving more approval and the insurance under the factory mutual services as well. If the component it is approved by FM. So it is giving a second layer of approval, second layer of confidence and the assurance of the product quality. Civil defense, when they are talking about the approval and the test for the pump itself, what is the main parameters they are looking for? Looking for about the specification of the pump itself, how to segregate and specify the pump and the characteristics of the pump.
So for a fire pump, it requires both. I mean, FM as well as UL.
ULFM approved, it has to be specified. And most of the manufacturers who are manufacturing for the fire pump, they are already certified, like Armstrong, Grundfos, all of them, they have the certificates already.
Okay.
Okay. And they should be approved by the civil defense itself. It doesn't, it's not enough to have it a certificate from the factory itself, but it has to be also approved from the civil defense. What does it mean? It means that when I am applying for the or using a pump or delivering a pump, before you deliver it, before you order, you have to assure that the manufacturer has an approval for the fire pump itself within the civil defense. They are approving the models, they are approving the brand, the head, the discharge for the pump as a model, and giving a certificate from the civil defense. If the manufacturer doesn't have it for your project, you have to assure that it is there and approved already. This is very important before delivering the material. Without getting the approval, you cannot deliver and dispatch the fire pump itself from the factory. In some cases, some manufacturers, they have approved the models, and the approval, it has to indicate the type, the model, and the country of origin. Some of them, they are changing the country of origin from US to China, or from US to Canada or UK, whatever the factories, they have it worldwide. Certificates from the civil defense, it is indicating the country of origin. If it is changed from where you are getting, they have to apply for a new certificates and approval from the civil defense. It's very important. Otherwise, civil defense will not accept the pump, and your inspection submission, it will get failed, which will take a time to apply for the pump and getting the approval of civil defense, which taking around 4 to 6 weeks. So better to be assured during the installation and submission process for the civil defense, even when you are making this one, when you are selecting this one from the manufacturer, it has to be assured that it is certified and having the approval from civil defense before you order the part. Okay. How are you, gentlemen? Good. We started our classes for the testing and inspection NFPA 25.
25?
Yeah.
And 24, we will not pass to it.
24 for the standpipe, I think we passed all the requirements of the standpipe under the NFPA 14 when we talk about it. All the requirements for the standpipe and connections and items. We have covered already. Okay, because I take it no need to make a duplication from 14 and the 24 as well. So we merge it both together at the same time. Okay. 25, it's the important for this one. It's taking about the testing and maintenance required for the wood pipe system of the firefighting. Okay. We're talking about the system itself before we go for the inspection. What will be the fire pump, the types of the fire pump, and the certificates for the UL and FM. Reaching now for the fire pump specification. The important for the civil defense talking about the fire pump, they will test for categories of the pump itself, the type, the brand, if it is approved, pre-approved from the civil defense, having an approval or not. If the manufacturer doesn't have an approval for the type and the country of origin for the fire pump, you cannot install it. You cannot ship it from or dispatch it from the factory. It has to be first approved. You will not get a clearance from the customs here if it is not approved. When you deliver, you have to attach the approval of that and certificates from the civil defense. For the main parameters civil defense they are testing, if it is UL and the FM approved, it's a must. Another parameters for the fire pump, for the engine, it is electrical or diesel driven. what is the flow rate for the pump, the GPM, the head pressure, the horsepower, the revolution per minute, the RPM for the pump. And for this one, to be well detailed and submitted for the civil defense. Yes, please. Thank you. The other one, first one. That's perfect. Data sheet of the fire pump. It has to be indicated on the name of the data plate for the pump, and it has to be physically fixed to the pump itself. Cannot be removed for many reasons. Number one, during the maintenance and the operational, you have to test the performance of the pump against the data sheets and the performance of the pump as a rated capacity and the consumption of the power and the GPM, the RPM, etc., the operating voltage. You have to test it against the nameplate. So it has to be fixed and maintained for the lifetime of the pump itself. Okay, you cannot put it as a sticker to be removed. It should not. Physically, it has to be fixed and absolutely fixed to the pump, indicating all the data of the pump itself. If it is electrical driven or mechanical, the GPM, the pressure head, the horsepower, etc., etc. Electrical, it has to show the current, the nameplate current and short circuit current and the operating voltage as well. When you are submitting this one, why we are focusing on it? Because civil defense for the pump itself, this is the heart for the system. They will the heart of the firefighting system. They will have a severe inspection and the testing and the checking for your submission. Submission for the fire pump, it is starting from the design stage in DC2. DC2, you have to submit a full design calculation for the fire pump itself. As a design, from the design point of view, taking the calculation as a design parameters from the design IFC drawing. Getting the approval for DC2, you have to place order, getting the material submitted from the manufacturer, getting the calculation, submission for the civil defense, the as-built stage, you have to compile all the calculation from the manufacturer for the head calculation, for the GPM, for the selection of the pump itself, the characteristics curve, which one, and taking all the scenarios for the fire pump, the most demanding fire hose cabinet, most demanding for the sprinkler, and the farthest and remote end of the sprinkler in the building to assure the consumption. Submit just 3 scenarios from the specialist. Not only this one, taking the factory acceptance test for the pump itself. It has to be tested in the factory, and the factory report, it has to be attached within your submission. And the site acceptance test as well, which we call it acceptance test on site. You have to submit all of the 3 documents together. All of them, they have to show identically the data sheet and the nameplates and the details of the pump with the serial number, showing the serial number of the pump in the factory test and your submission for the inspection of civil defense.
Sorry.
Okay. And the civil defense will come to inspect the pump accordingly. They will not extend the test only for the pump. Will extend the test for all accessories related for the wet pipe system, including shaft coupling, automatic air release valve, pressure gauge, circulating relieving valve for the electrical drive pump, or pump relief valve for the diesel engine, alarming sensors, right angle gear test, and the jockey pump as well. All of the tests for this equipment should be submitted when you are uploading for the inspection of civil defense, not part of the design DC2 submission. It is part from your as-built submission for the civil defense. and you have to maintain copy of the test report and the QCD certificates for all the equipment on the sample room when they are coming for inspection. You have to attach. Some of them, whatever it is applicable for the pressure gauge and air release valve, etc. Small components, you have to provide a physical sample for the civil defense during inspection as well. What is the purpose for this equipment? And let us go one by one for the test. Automatic air release valve, which we talked about it last time. It's an important element to assuring that there is no air within the pressurized water pump pipe as well. It has a different size depending on the diameter of the pipe, depending on the pressure. All of them are functional to eliminate and taking out the air from the having the air within the pressurized pump, it is causing many serious problems for the pump. Corrosion, rusting, fluctuation, evaporation, hammering within the pump, turbulence within the water itself. Circulation relief valve, it's coming in a small diameter, it's connected for electrical driven pump. In the case of the pump, it is running without any consumption of the water flow. It will create a high pressure in the network. Having high pressure in the network, in the electrical, it will be controlled by the electrical driver, variable frequency drive. It can control the speed of the motor and reducing the pressure within the network. However, a protection device for the circulating relief valve, it is required to be connected, and it's a small diameter, 19 millimeter for the pump capacity up to 2,500 GPM itself. Because we are relying on the electrical controller of the pump to release and to control the pressure. For the diesel drive pump, it is not the same case. For the diesel engine, you cannot control and reducing the speed of the engine. It will not operate. That's why diesel engine, it is working with the full capacity, with the full speed, with the full pressure of the pump. So I have to control it and limiting the pressure within the network. It is exceeding 121% of the rated pressure of the pump. Otherwise, it will damage the encasement enclosure of the pump itself and damaging the valves and valves and all other equipment of the network. So pressure relief valve, it is working whenever it is exceeding 121% of the rated pressure, and it is connected mainly for the diesel driven. So definitely for each type of the circulating valve or pressure relief valve, we have to maintain it. It's part of the maintenance for the operational and the gauge, and assure that it is releasing the valve even during the test. We have to assure that if the pressure it is exceeding 120, the pressure valve it is released and opening and relaxing the valve, reducing the pressure of the pump. The pressure relief it is stopping the discharge as well. Location of the pressure relief valve and the circulating relief valve has to be within the pump room and very close, providing a drainage pump, a drainage point next to this one, and having a collection pit as well. For the collection pit, we add a for the pump room itself, but you have drain point and making a slope collection pit. If the discharge is exceeding the rate and the size of the drain point, it has to go with a slope to the collection pit as well. The collection pit mainly for the overflow of the tank.
We saw a different schematic diagram. One is taken to the gate of the tank. The water is going to gate to the tank, the main tank.
So how he collected? He collected from this one reliever and making a collection point back again to the tank.
On the valve for the test panel, it's usually connected back to the tank. For the TRV, usually we drain it to the drain.
Correct.
On this schematic system, we show it also they took it back again to the tank. They connect it back to the tank.
No problem for this one, but it's, you are adding this one. It is working only in case of
High pressure.
and the high pressure and operational for the pump for non-controlled.
Those cases will work.
It can work. It's additional pipe work and controlling returning to the pump, and you have to take it to the high level of the water tank as well. It could be. There is no requirements or insistence from the civil defense or from the NFPA to have it. It's both design concept. If you need to add it to collect it, fine, no issue, but it is not required. I see from the point it's additional cost. Why I have to add? But it's nice to have. Jockey pump, I think we talked about the jockey pump too much last time. It is working with a difference pressure of from 5 psi to 10 psi if the pressure within the network is reduced. And it has to overtaking and maintaining the pressure within the network of the rated operating pressure. That's why the jockey pump capacity, it shouldn't be the size, it has to be within the range of one consumption flow of the one sprinkler head within 50 JPM. The size, it is vary from 1 to 3 maximum size of the fire pump as well, depending on the size of the fire pump. Types of the drive, we talk about it as well for the electrical driven pump and for the mechanical, for the diesel pump. We will see here now the inspection and the test maintenance for both electrical and the diesel pump. And we see the diesel pump, it is required more maintenance and the procedure and the testing higher than the electrical, especially for the diesel drive. Another component within the fire pump itself, it's a packing gland. Packing gland, it is connected between the shaft for the pump and the operational and the driving unit. The purpose for the packing gland is to assure there is no leakage within the shaft, and it is working like a gland to assure there is no leakage of the water. For the high pump, it might require the cooling conditions and the cooling water for the just cooling for the gland itself from the gear bearing. Okay, to assuring that cooling is maintained for the network or lubrications. Mechanical seal also connected to the shaft. It's two part, but it is mechanically sealing one, assuring there is no leakage happening within the bearing shaft. Definition for the Schron and the rated capacity and overload. It might be coming as a question: what is the Schron rated capacity of the for the operational and the overloading for the pump? For the Schron, it is a condition for the operational of the pump without no flow. Sometimes you call it Schron and rated capacity. It is when it is the capacity of the pump for discharging as specified with the pressure 1000 GPM, 2000 GPM. The overload, when the pump is discharging water at rate of 100% rate, low pressure of 65% of the rated pressure. The overloading, it means that the pump capacity selection, it should be selected with overload capacity 50% higher, so it is capable to inject the flow rated of the pump at 60% from the rated height of the pump, to assuring that the pump capacity, it can go for the remotest and the farthest end of the spring. Setting for the fire pump and operational, In case of fire, the first one will take an action is the jockey pump. Jockey pump will start if the pressure rated it is coming 5 psi or 10 psi lower than the rated pressure of the network. Starting the jockey pump, not sufficient, fire pump, it will take an action. The sequence for the operational, if you have electrical and diesel, electrical pump, it will take the lead for connection. If you don't have a power, it will stop and will transfer for the diesel pump. It depends on the control. Depends on the controlling for you have. Why you have it? You have to operate it both. If the electrical pump is enough to take the capacity, and
it's not enough.
why it is not enough?
Flow.
It should be capable for 150% overflow. If you have over, you have to work both together. Okay, but having a discharge 150% higher than the rated of the pump, it means that you have a big discharge within the network. Number of the sprinkler trusted and discharging is high, so it will be or a fire hydrant or fire hose. Okay. The sequence of the operation, civil defense will test it as well during the inspection and making a simulation for the operation. Inspection, test, and maintenance for the pump. First of all, NFPA, they are saying inspection, test, and maintenance, you have to follow the procedure as per the manufacturer, recommendations from the manufacturer. If you don't have recommendation from the manufacturer, NFPA, they are giving a table for the inspection and the testing for all the equipment of the network. So first, follow the procedures of the manufacturer. If you don't have, then follow the NFPA requirement.
Not by the pump. If you don't have, you will not buy that.
If you don't have, you will not buy the pump. But as a standard,
If you don't give me, I will not buy from you.
practically yes. But as a standard for NFPA, not all the authorities pushing you to have it. This one is a standard worldwide. Qatar, they are requesting and they have to submit it as a part of your submitted the requirements for the maintenance and the testing from the manufacturer itself. You have to maintain it. Even for the renewal of the fire pump and the certificates for the civil defense every 5 years, you have to submit the test report and certified from the manufacturer. But some countries might not have it. Okay? So it is almost not applicable for us. What kind of test and the maintenance we have to maintain it for all the equipment? First of all, weekly inspection. Okay. We are talking about the pump done and testing and the maintenance procedures. Weekly inspection. Inspection physically, inspecting the pump room, assuring the temperature it is higher than 4.4 Celsius or 4 Fahrenheit, to assuring there is no freezing for the water and the temperature is okay. Ventilation louvers are free to operate. In case of fire, the louvers, it has to maintain the supply air and return exhaust air as well, assuring that the louvers are operating. Checking the operational for the louvers, it's a part from the smoke management system. We talk about it in NFPA 90. They will check it as well. Second one, weekly inspection for the fire pump conditions as well. Inspecting for the bypass valve is fully open. Piping is free of leak. Suction line pressure, it is reading in normal. If the suction line gauge showing less, the fire pump it will not operate. System line pressure gauge, maintaining the pressure within the network as rated at the normal. Suction reservoir is full and the full capacity for the tank, for the water tank itself. The wet pipe suction screen are unobstructed and in place. This is for the pump itself. For the electrical conditions of the driver, controller pilot lamp is normally on, operated, assuring it's connected. The isolator is on. A transfer switch pilot is illuminated in auto position. Isolator switch is closed for standby emergency, connected to the ATS and the generator. Reverse phase alarm pilot is off, or normal phase of rotation is on, assuring there is no phase reverse of the phase sequence. Oil level in vertical motor is on for big motors having oil lubrication is on. For diesel engine, full tank is 2/3 full. The size of the tank of the fuel itself, it is 2/3, not full. Why?
Pressure.
Not for the operation.
We are talking about the fuel tank. The fuel tank indicator, it is required only to be 2/3, not full. 66% of the tank to be full, 2/3. Not the tank, the fuel tank is full to the top.
And heat comes evaporation of pressure.
Which means the fuel tank, I shouldn't make it full.
Even though the total also it's more than 1 hour to check the operating of
Is it only related to the fire pump application?
It's related to the fire pump. Why it is 2/3, not full?
because the time here the capacity the calculation of the pump.
Exactly.
نحن بنستعملها at 60 minutes. It must run 60 minutes. So
Okay.
the 60 minutes is equal to 2/3 of
And bring a smaller time than only
There is a point behind.
for the flood option.
What you are saying to calculate the size of the tank required. NFPA, I think section 58, they are, which related to the fuel tank sizing itself. They are asking for the fuel tank to be 33% higher from the consumption and required fuel for the operational of the engine, either for the diesel engine generator or for the fuel tank itself. The fuel tank sizing as a fuel tank, it has to be 33% higher than the required consumption of the operation. If you require a diesel tank 200 gallon, you have to increase that. You have to procure and install water tank 33%. So at least 260 or 280 gallon, not the 200. When you are testing and assuring that the system is ready for operational, what I need for my operation is 200, which is 2/3 from the fuel tank itself.
When they calculate the tank, it's 4 hours operating.
2 hour operating. But when you are selecting the tank, which one you install it and procure,
You have just
33% from the capacity you require for the operation. So when I'm checking the readiness of the system, if it is 2/3, so it is enough. Because the size of the tank itself, it is 33% high. Okay. So sometimes it's coming a question for the water tank, it has to be full. For the fuel tank, it has to be 2/3 only of the capacity.
It's 1 hour or 2 hour operation.
2 hour operational for the fire pump.
And the capacity of the tank, the water tank, should be enough for also.
For 2 hour sizing.
Yeah, upgraded. I remember before it was half 20 minutes and 1 hour
30 minutes.
QCDD.
Plus 30 minutes
30 minutes for the tank.
for the portable. For the water tank.
Water tank should be capable for fire time for discharge of the fire
For
pump. For,
full RPM of 30 minutes. Full flow at 30 minutes.
let me cross check. As I remember, it's 2 hours. But let's check for the sizing of the tank as well. Controller selection for the engine pipe, it has to be in auto position. Checking for the batteries volt rating is normal. A charging current rating for the pump is normal. Battery pilot light or battery failure to be off. All alarm pilot lamp is off. Engine running time meter is reading. Oil level and the gear is normal. Crankcase oil level is normal. Cooling water. Electro read for the batteries. Battery terminal free of corrosion. Water jacket heater is operating. For the testing, the weekly test for the pump should be conducted for 10 minutes. Except for the electrical, it is required to be operated in a monthly.
Without flowing water.
Circulating water, making circulating water for the pump, not flow, bypass.
On the testing line.
On the test line. Yes. This is a test you have to conduct it weekly for the diesel for 10 minutes, monthly for the electrical. For the diesel pump, it has to be operating for 30 minutes, minimum 30 minutes, and intended for the allowing for the pump and the driver to reach the operating temperature and reveal any overheating problem. A valve instead of open of a safety feature should be permitted to discharge water. Automatic weekly test timer should be permitted and submitted on the starting procedures. Qualified operating personnel should be conducting. The penetrative visual observation should be conducted for the water run, especially for recording the water system, the suction and the discharge, a pressure gauge for the readings, checking the pump backing gland, adjust the gland nuts if necessary, checking unusual noise or any turbulence, vibration of the pump, check the backing box and the bearing for the pump for any overheating, recording the pump pressure, starting pressure. For the electrical pump, observing the motor acceleration time for the full speed, recording the time controller for the voltage, when the reduced volts and the current will be starting current, starting voltage, and how long the time it will take to reach the rated operating voltage. Record the time pump runs after starting. For a diesel, checking the time for engine to crank, observing the time for the engine to reach the running speed, observing the engine oil pressure gauge, the speed indicator, water, pressure, recording any abnormal, checking the heat exchanger for the cooling water flow, if any. And you have to compare it with the rated parameters of the pump. That's why we are saying the rated parameters of the pump, it has to be maintained and fixed on the name of the plate, pump plate. So this is a monthly test. So we have the weekly inspection, monthly test, and the weekly test for the engine, and the annual test. Annual test, it has to conduct and operating the pump with the full rated and the capacity of the pump, allowing the pump to discharge and working with a full capacity. If available, the suction supplies, allowing to flow 100% of the pump flow rate. So overloading the pump with 150 ensuring the pump overloading with a capacity can discharge. The test should be conducted with a pump discharge via the hose stream network in the farthest end of the stand pipes of the hose stream. Pump suction and discharge pressure to be maintained and checked for each hose stream system. Should be cared for during the test because it's working with the high pressure and a full capacity of water discharge. Using the pump discharge via the bypass flow meter to drain or suction the reservoir. The case, which is the case you are collecting the drain to the reservoir itself as a water tank. Pump suction and discharge pressure to be maintained and recorded from the flow meters. Use the pump discharge via bypass flow meter to pump suction or closed loop metering. Measuring the total pump discharge and output for the flow rate and the pressure. The flow meter should be adjusted immediately prior to conducting the test with the manufacturer instruction. Calibration for the equipment and the gauge, it has to be maintained annually. The pertinent visual observation measurement and adjustment should be checked. While the pump is running, the following water and the flowing water and the specified condition output. Checking at no flow condition shown. Checking when it is working without any flow. Checking the circulating relief valve for the electrical drive or pressure relief valve for the diesel drive. It is working and operating at 120% overall pressure. Continue the test for half an hour annually. At each flow condition, recording the electrical motor voltage and current, allowing the voltage drop as per the manufacturer, it is from 5 to 10% plus or minus. Recording the pump speed in RPM. Record simultaneous reading for the pump suction, discharge, pressure, and the flow. As you said, for the pump where it is required to have a pressure relief valve for the diesel pump, assuring and observing the operational of the pressure relief valve in case of high pressure, and once the pressure is released, assuring that the pressure relief valve it is maintained closed. Pressure relief valve shall also be observed during each flow condition to determine if the pressure relief it is operating at 120% of the rated pressure. Pressure relief valve that is open during the flow condition will offset test result. Pressure relief valve shall be closed during the flow condition if necessary to achieve the minimum rated characteristic for the pump result in a normal condition. In case you have an electrical pump, it is connected to emergency supply and having auto transfer switch within the pump itself. We have to test that automatic position of the transfer switch by simulating electrical shortage of the power and assuring that the generator it is operating and converting the automatic transfer switch to the standby supply. For simulating the power off, showing the transfer switch is working. Is the timing for the generator to start working since the time of the electrical shutdown, it should not exceeding 10 seconds as per the NFPA and the QCD. So during the inspection, they will ask you to make a simulation for the losing electricity, generator to start, and ATS to transfer to the generator with a timing not more than 10 seconds.
10 seconds
10 seconds, 1-0.
on the generator.
To connect the pump to the generators itself. You have stages.
Once
The power is
failure
off. The failure coming, the power coming from transformer, it is off. Failed. Signal to the ATS. ATS give a signal for standby generator.
how much time?
Should not taking more than 1 or 1.5 seconds. Generator starting. Connect the operating the generator shouldn't take more than 6 to 8 seconds for the generator from receiving the signal up reaching the full speed and ready. Generator give a signal back to the ATS. It is ready for the operating voltage and the frequency. 400 volt and 50 hertz. It is ready. Transfer switch, it is moved from transformer to the generator. And generator start taking over of the pump. So all of this sequence, it is 10 seconds maximum. Okay. And it is well explained for the NFPA 110, 110. It's related to electrical part, giving the sequence of the generators, the transfer switch, and the standby, and how it's connected. It's according to NFPA 110. However, it is mentioned in the QCD, the transfer timing from the normal and generator standby supply shouldn't take more than 10 seconds. It is not only applicable for the pump, even for the emergency light. When they are testing the emergency light connected to the normal supply and the battery, transferring from the normal supply to emergency power shouldn't take more than 10 seconds.
1 second.
10 seconds. For the fire pump, we have to conduct this test under the condition of full operation of the fire pump with rated capacity and rated speed, assuring that the pump it will continue running, simulating loss of the power, transfer switch, and generator it is connected to the pump as well with the full speed of the pump. So this one it's not related to mechanical, but for electrical, should have into consideration the sizing of the generator selection. It's also part of the submission for the civil defense under electrical, sizing calculation for the generator, and making a simulation for the generator to start receiving load at the starting with the full capacity of the pump. Okay, so you can imagine the generator, it is working at no load, and I'm connecting the fire pump by transfer switch with a full capacity. So the generator sizing, it has to be well sized to carry the load of the fire pump. Checking the operational, the current, the reading of the current and the voltage during the test, and it should not be exceeding the full rated current, and allowing for the voltage dip within 5 to 10% is acceptable. All of this reading for the characteristics of the fire pump, for the suctional and operational and the discharge and the pressure has to be compared for selection power curve, selection discharge and the pressure curve of the pump itself to see where the pump performance according to the rated conditions. All of these reports should be submitted, collected, and submitted for the civil defense for the renewal of the certificates. If the maintenance, according to the manufacturer, is not available, it's not there. So the civil defense, they are providing, here is a table 8.5.3. the fire pump inspection and the testing and the maintenance. Talk about the first one of the fire pump itself. It is giving when it should be visually inspected, a check, or it is required to change or clean or test, and giving the frequency as well. This table, it is converted by the civil defense in the manual PDF file I give it. So they are taking the same tables and convert it in a small simulation. We're making first for the inspection, for the test and the maintenance, for the fire alarm system, for the firefighting system, all as well. Like this one for the fire pump, lubrication for the fire pump bearing. It has to be changed annually. Checking for the pump shaft in the play, it has to be checked annually. Check accuracy for the pressure gauge and the sensor. It has to be checked and changed annually. It has to be checked annually and changed or recalibrate when 5% or more calibration is required, is out of calibration. Checking the pump coupling alignment annually. Wet pipe suction has to be checked and cleaned after each pump operational. Mechanical transmission for the shaft checking, lubricating for the coupling annually. For electrical system, the isolator, the trip circuit breaker, operational, operate manually starting, inspect and operate emergency manually. It has to be annually. Tighten electrical connection, checking annually. Calibrate pressure switch setting, checking annually. Gears motor bearing, change annually. Diesel engine system for the fuel, checking the tank level. Visual inspection weekly. The same periodics we just talked about, the weekly inspection and annually. Summarized in the table. Tank flow switch checking weekly. Solenoid valve operational checking weekly. Strainer or dirty checking for the water, it has to be quarterly. Water and foreign material in a tank, checking annually. Flexible hose and the connection, check and inspect weekly. مش هتقدر تحفظهم، ولكن إذا جالك سؤال during the exam and you cannot memorize which one, I give it to you here, the table where you need to open in the NFPA as well. If you go for NFPA 25, this table, you will find it on the screen. If they are asking about the periodical test for the tank in the exam, I cannot remember it is annually or quarterly, visual inspection or change or testing. You know where to find. Even this one, they are talking about the exhaust system as well. For the louvers, checking for the leakage, the back pressure, checking for the battery system, for the electrolyte levels, cleaning from the terminals, not without rusting. This one, it needs to be checked quarterly. And the monthly for the exterior clean, specific gravity or state of charge, a charger, charge rate. For electrical system, general inspection, it has to be conducted weekly. Tightening for the control of the power wiring. Checking for the vibration of the pump itself. It is mainly coming from the during the running and the lifetime of the pump itself. It might have the vibration pads not performing the alignment, some of the lubrications and axes it need to be aligned. Without alignment for the shaft and maintaining the absorbing the vibration of the pump, it will cause a turbulence with the water flow, a crank for the pump itself, leakage within the shaft, damaging for the bearing. NFPA, they are giving a acceptable level of the vibration, depending on the type of the pump and the rating. For example, for the end suction, for the pump side less than 20 horsepower, the vibration rate, it could be 0.12 inch per second. For vertical inline pump, 100 horsepower and higher, 0.18 inch per second. So they are giving a polycycle. So they are giving the vibration levels for each type. This is a way of the alignment and how it will be the right way, and if there is any misalignment, how to be conducted. Part of the acceptance test we are always making for the fire pump to get the supplier to align the pump with the driver with a laser beam. It's a part of the acceptance test for the pump. Another observation for the diesel engine, which we have to maintain it for the cooling system. For the big size of the pump, if you have a circulating water cooling system, the battery to be checked and check the charging in 24 hours. Electrolyte levels, battery plates, checking the fuel storage, and it has to be maintained for 2/3 of the fuel tank capacity. The fire pump should be started and brought up to speed without interruption within 20 seconds of the start. For the diesel engine, rain cap outlet if necessary for tight connections. Checking the exhaust of the fire pump itself, and it needs to be fixed gravity louvers to avoid any damage. Engine shall be regulated to have no more than 10% speed difference from the shut-off and maximum load. So the speed should not take more than 10%. However, the capacity of the pump discharge, it has to be capable to overload for 150%. We're going to confuse between the numbers of the overloading of the speed, overspeed, and the overloading for the pump capacity. So I think this one is covering all the procedure for the test and the maintenance for the fire pump and the components. Can we go for next sections? Do you have any question?
Inertia based on pump, it's recommended or you can go only for that or inertia based?
Manufacturer recommendation. Manufacturer recommendation, even the inertia base or the sprinklers, it is a manufacturer for recommendation depending on the size of the pump itself and the vibration and many factors. Mainly of the vibration which is related to the pump size and the fixation. المقاولين بيحاولوا يوصلوا إلى أرخص شيء. Vibration choke up vibration isolator is the most cheapest for us. ولكن depending on the recommendation من المانيفاكتشر and should be confirmation. واعتقد لازم تسلمها للاستشاري ضمن الماتيريال سبميتد تبعك. تاخد ابروفلز عليها. السيفل ديفنس ما اعتقدش ان هو بيشيكوا على الماتيريال، ولكن هتكون بارت من الانسبكشن للسايت والابروفال للماتيريال. consultant approval with manufacturer supplier recommendations. عفوا اسمع
الوقت اليوم ولا
عشان فترة طويلة. لو مش قادر فتوكل على الله، نفس السلايدز هتكون افيلبل على الاونلاين. النهارده بنكمل على في عندنا 3 sections still we have to complete. ACMV which we are talking about here 90-22. Something we have to complete.
3 sections today or Sunday?
To complete our study still we have NFPA 92 for the ACMV, NFPA 101 for the life safety, NFPA 2001 for clean agent. So this is for the exam. In addition, for your experience about the procedure for the QCDD submissions and what is the level of information required, you have to present for this one. It's a small sections plus talking about the questions itself and the exam, the nature of the question, how to address it, what are the categories of the questions itself is expected, how to easily find the answer for the question where it is from. So this is a balancing for us. Let us go quickly for this one, but إذا كنت تعبان توكل على الله توصلك الحلقات اونلاين تسجيل ليها. ان شاء الله. تارجت النهارده نخلص ال 92 بلس 100 NFPA 101 ان شاء الله. خلينا نبلش. ربك يسر.
يلا
ولا يهمك، الله يعينك. ولا يهمك. ولو في اي شيء اي استفسار حضرتك.
لا تسلم. هي مسجل.
اوكي.
Have a nice weekend.
Let us go for NFPA 92. If you would like to have a break, tell me. Otherwise, we will continue. 92. What is the concept of the NFPA 92? What is the interest for the civil defense? What is the kind of questions they are asking for the NFPA 92, and what is their interest as well? NFPA 92 talking about the smoke management system, ACMV. What they are looking for and how to achieve the acceptance of the civil defense for the calculation. What is the types of the smoke management system we can apply in our country? The smoke management system is the system where we are using for extraction smoke from the building outside in case of the fire. It has two different major systems. Either it is passive or active. Passive, it means that it is naturally ventilation, with the open ventilation, allowing the smoke to go outside from the building naturally without any mechanical ventilation. Examples for this one, for the natural ventilation. For the above ground car park, it's a natural ventilation. It doesn't require any mechanical ventilation, subject to having an open area within the perimeters of the car park, not less than 1.2 meters for the height of the opening. But the area of the opening should be provided 40% opening, 60% blowhole, and 40% opening around. This is the standards for the NFPA to have it 40% above. If it is less than 40% for any reason, you have to provide a smoke extraction system. Extraction system in these cases have to be mechanical or passive system. Different systems of the passive we have to maintain. Let us go through the slides what we have it to give more explanation about the smoke management system. The smoke danger, it is starting from the early stage of the fire, even you don't have a fire or flame itself. It is starting in the early stage of the fire, even within the fire continuation and the flames. Even so, after stopping the fire, the generation of the smoke itself, it will remain. That's why we have a time for the cooling, and after the fire, we have a time for the cooling and stopping the smoke. The danger of the smoke in two areas. Number one, it's not allowing the people to breathe, and it is the main reason for the death, not the fire itself. Second one, doesn't allow the people to have a vision how to escape outside from the building. So I have to evaluate to extract the smoke from these two perspectives. For the first one, so we have to take it outside above the vision, allowing the people to escape. The first system we have it's a natural ventilation. Could be applicable for above ground car park, then industrial area for the hangars and workshops, providing roof access hatch on the top, working with a visible lane or motorized. In case of the fire, it has to open, and opening the sides of the building and the main entrance to allow a differential pressure, allowing the flow of the air so it will extract the smoke outside. This one is a passive ventilation. Mechanical ventilation, so we have to mechanically extract the fire outside. It has many arrangements for the system, depending on the architect and the space arrangement, depending on the space above the full ceiling, how many extract fans, how many locations of the smoke you can extract it. In many cases, like the first one, we have to extract the air by adding a smoke fans on the top, and each one it is a standalone vertical. Or you can make it ducted and collected from the smoke exhaust to that up to the ceiling itself. In this case, you have to maintain you have to allow for makeup air to allow excess of the air entering the building and start exit. What is the percentage for the makeup air? 15%. In average, we are taking 15% as minimum. So we are extracting 85 and making adding a makeup air 15% to extract it outside to allow creating a differential of the pressure itself. Extract of the fan, it has to come from the high level of the area. Cannot making the outlet of the smoke extraction in the lower level of the space. It has to be from the ceiling level, and the make up from the lower level, from the windows, from the open. Cannot make the make up air from the ceiling and the extract from the ceiling itself. The purpose for this one, to create a zone that people can have a vision, at least in a minimum of 6 feet as well. Another system for the smoke is the extraction to have a dilution, like the dilution for the sprinklers. Dilution system, we are injecting a fresh air or makeup air with a high speed from the ceiling level to make a dilution and lower the concentration of the smoke itself and extracting the air. That's why we are making the dilution and injecting from the high level of the space to dilute the concentration of the smoke itself. And the extraction fan, they are working to extract as well.
Not common, right? It's not common.
It is not common for this one, and to be honest, I did not apply it at all, this kind of dilution system, but it's a part of the systems for the smoke extraction. Mainly, we are taking a smoke extraction like a layering, which we take it for the highest level of the building and the extraction. Another system for the extraction to create a pressurization differential pressure system. Differential pressure system, it is relying on the making a differential of the pressure within a common shaft, which is the stair area, in case of the fire, utilizing the pressure from the stair, which will push the air outside. This one you can apply it in a small area of the building. You don't need to have a second layer for the smoke extract duct and fans, and you are relying on the shafts as well. In this case, we have to maintain an opening within the building to, when you are pressurizing from the stair, and allowing the smoke to go outside the building through the openings as well. NFPA and the QCDD doesn't insisting for a system of the extraction, of the smoke extraction or the smoke management system for ACMP. They are not insisting for this one, but you have to present it and simulate for them how the smoke it will be extracted, what is the system it will be applied, which we call it the CFD analysis. They request the CFD analysis especially for the car park area, for the basement area. In some cases, if you have multiple levels of the basement, they are calling for the worst case scenario of the basement, which is if you have the lowest level of the basement. And some of the reviewer, they are asking a full simulation for the 3 levels. Some cases they are requesting only the worst case. Some cases they are requesting for the 3 levels. I have both cases when we are applying. CFD analysis, we have to submit it in the 2 scenarios. On the design stage, to present it for the simulation, the selection of the fans, the location, taking the worst case scenario, what would be the temperature rise of the fire, and the smoke levels, and showing the scenario after 10 seconds, 15 seconds, 18 seconds, 30 seconds as well, and showing the layers of the smoke it will be there. Presenting this CFD in a 3D simulation. This is a design stage. The as-built, the supplier for the extract system or the jet fans, he has to submit the same CFD based on the fans and the air exchange per hour, selection for the airflow, the CFM, and making the simulation based on the selected fans itself. Starting from the jet fans to the axial fans and the shaft extracting outside the building. So I have to submit in 2 cases. Another system for the extraction, this one for the car park, having the jet fans, and jet fans we are using to minimize the running and the cost for the smoke management system or the smoke ducts, the fire-rated ducts, instead of having a big size of the fire rated ducts running everywhere on the parking who are using the jet fan. Jet fan, it is working for two cases, especially in the car park. CO sensors for the first stage with how many air exchange per hour? 6 air exchange per hour. And in case of fire, it is upgraded up to 10 air exchange per hour. So the jet fan, it has 2-speed motors in this case. Control the first one by the CO control panel. Second one, it is controlled by fire alarm system. Should be fire rated encasement for 2 hours for the minimum degree of 250 degrees. Another component for the smoke management system, the smoke fire dampers, motorized smoke fire dampers. And the damper, it has to be as well for the 2-hour fire rated 250 degrees operation, including the actuator for the dampers itself. Dampers should be motorized dampers or should be connected with a feasible length, with the temperature. The size of the dampers, it has to match with the size of the duct itself. So the dampers, it's a part of the submission for the civil defense for the approval. You have to provide the certificates and approvals and the data sheet and showing the model and the family and the construction for the damper. Dampers, they are customized based on the sizing of the duct itself. Shall I submit for all the civil defense, all the sizing, approval, etc.? You have to submit manufacturer and the family construction for the dampers, which will be applied for all.
Batch number, instead they are asking about the batch number.
You have to submit it for the as a material, but not approve the QCDD certificates.
Yes, but before they were asking about the batch number of the fire damper.
Batch number you have to submit as a part of the submission.
Yes.
But shall I submit certificate for each one?
No.
No. Okay. Another one for the numbers itself and the coordination for it, you have to provide access panel for each one and showing on the tag for the access panel. Very fair to show it the functional for access panel. Access panel for the chill valve, for the dome control valve, for the flow meters, for the fire dampers, etc. Another access panel not related to the civil defense is not required to be indicated. Like if you have an access panel for fire fan coil units, is not required. But for the other life safety, like above ceiling smoke detectors, you have to provide it. Leakage and for the smoke barriers and the testing for the leakage of the fire ducts. It has to be tested for the walls, providing figures for the inch weight. All the sealant and protection for the barrier, it has to be maintained with the maximum, with a minimum 20 minutes rating, especially for the doors, and with a standing for temperature 250 Fahrenheit, 121 Celsius degree. Combination of fire and the smoke dampers. When the fire damper is used within the duct itself as a smoke control management, it has to be 50 degrees above the maximum smoke control temperature of 350 Fahrenheit. For the natural ventilation system, open for exterior, balcony, and visual, should be at least 16 square feet in an area facing an opening at least 20 feet inwards. For the stair pressurization fan, stair shaft pressurization should be 25 Pascal from the stair to all vestibules. 55 is the
50 all those floors.
50 all the floors for the floors, and
One open,
one open.
2 open, 12.5.
Exactly. Okay, so I think this one it has to be 50. Sorry, it has to. I have to adjust. It's 50 Pascal. Thank you. I think it is indicated in other slides. It has to be 50 for all closed and 25. And making a calculation for the staircase pressurization part of your submission. Not only this one, providing a case calculation for the staircase and the simulation for 1 open and 2 open and 3 open. Okay, you have to submit calculation and physical simulations. You will inspect it during the to maintain the pressure for the stair pressurization. You can maintain the pressure either by electrical through the VFD or providing mechanically pressure relief dampers.
In our project, actually, what happened was that we forget it. No, at the beginning, we forget all the pressurization.
How is it? Forget installation الفانز كامل. بعض المشاريع you don't have a space for the stair itself to install the dampers. You can install the dampers. It should be in the highest level of the stair. I cannot put it in the lower level or something. So some cases you don't have on the top of the stair. The architect is coming with the stair. You don't have a space to add. Control it with VFD, pressure transducer, and control with the VFD.
The problem was the most problem was it was counter calculator. So to maintain the 50, then open one door having 25, and then this, and it is only weight that way. It was problem. It was not the fan was not there, and we don't have any differential pressure over there. To open, it was not motorized. So you cannot calculate. So you make 50 okay, make it 25, you get it okay, you open 2 doors, 0. You don't have.
You lose the pressure.
You close it to have 12.5. You close it, it's 70, 80, 100. So it was because counterweight, it was not motorized.
Another difficulty we are facing during the inspection, maintaining the 50 Pascal inside the shaft with a full close. The maximum force to open the door, 30 Pascal. So they are coming and tested. So you have to provide a force bar to test and open the door. Not only this one, for the panic bar itself of the door, it has to be tested with 15 Pascal. So this pressure is stair pressure test. It is the most difficult test during the civil inspection. أحمد ربنا. Providing the vestibule ventilation, it has to be maintained for the air for the 6 inch from the floor level to allowing visual levels for the people to escape from 6 feet. Yeah. الكليرنس مش عشان على الشخص. لا الكليرنس visible clearance clear vision used for the people to run. تكون على الأقل 6 feet. Arrangement for the stair pressurization fan. It is the most recommended to have pressurization fan on the top of the stairs itself. In some areas, It could be installed in the lower level and having a fire-rated tanks and shafts everywhere on the building. For the high-rise building, where you have exceeding 30 floors or 40 floors, having a pressurization fans on the top of the floor, on the top of the roof, it would be maintaining all the pressure down for the towers. It's very difficult to maintain it. It will require a high pressure and static pressure from the fans itself. That's why we are splitting in two levels, lower zones and the higher zone. Lower zone, it has a pressurization fan from the basement level up to level 20, for example, and the high level zone from the roof level up to 21. In this case, you have to maintain a physical isolation between the two zones. So the transient level, which is level 20 or level 21, the staircase, it should have two doors. Difference from the high level zones and the lower level zones. You cannot maintain both opening together. Okay? Otherwise, you will not maintain the pressure 50 pascals. Another one. ولكن الترانزيت ليفلز الفرق ما بين الاثنين بيكون السلم ليه بابين. ما تقدرش تاخد من ال 19 من ال 20 لل 19 لل 18 وان سيت. يجب ان يكون في دور فاصل ما بين الاثنين. على نفس السلم بابين. على نفس السلم بابين اللي نازل باب قبل ما يكمل على الليفل اللي تحت. بحيث ان تكون عامل تقريبا بيكون 20 دور او 25 دور اقصى شيء. اذروايز الستاتيك بريشر للفان بتكبر وبيكون حجم الفان كبير عشان تركبها على السطح. السطح بتاعها بيكون متر ونص مثلا. برج خليفه عندك كل 15 دور تقريبا حاطين ميكانيكال ليفلز. حاطين ميكانيكال ليفل. لو التفت عليها، يعني برج خليفه انا كنت شغال في، مش شغال في نفس البرج ولكن كنت شغال في ديفلوبمنت دبي مولز. فكان الكونستراكشن لبرج خليفه شغال معاه. كل 10 15 فلور موجود في عندك ميكانيكال ليفل، تكنيكال فلور موجود في الاير هاندلنج يونتس، موجود في الووتر بامبس، موجود في البرج خليفه عباره عن انه 6 ابراج او 7 ابراج متجمعين مع بعض. فكل واحد منهم ليه الكالكوليشنز بتاعته وليه ما كنتش كذاب، يعني ما اقولكش ان انا اشتغلت فيه وعارف السيستم بتاعته تفصيلا، ولكن كان من ضمن الحاجات اللي اول مره كانت تدخل في دبي يتركب فيها الدراي تايب ترانسفورمرز والفاير ريتد باس بارز في وقتها. لان الترانسفورمرز وطالع ميديم فولتج كيبلز الى الادوار الهاي رايز. دي كانت اول مره تركب في دبي، وكان اول مره يدخلوا الدراي تايب ترانسفورمر دي، وما كانتش بتقبل بيها، كان كله اول تايب ترانسفورمر. وقتها كانوا هم اللي بيوردوا الترانسفورمرز، مش السبلاي، مش الاونر، ولكن الفنتريشن سيستمز بتاعته وكذا. انا كنت شغال معاهم على الديستريكت كولينج نتورك. يعني كان ودين برج خليفه فيه 3 ديستريكت كولينج شيلد ووتر نتورك. انا كنت شغال معاهم، كنا بنوصل النتورك الى البرج. لكن الديتيلز للفاير بقى والكالكوليشنز ليها
كان عندك ان هو من جوا طابق شاب او بوزيتيف وميجاتيف سكشن من النص.
ممكن تستعملها كاتريوم، وهي نفسها اللي بتسحب منها. ممكن زيها زي الجوميرا تاورز او برج العرب. برج العرب نفس الشيء، الاتريوم بيسحبوا منه. Typical use of pressurization method. I think we talk about it here. The force required to be open for the staircase, 30 pounds for the opening, 15 pounds for the pressurizations. Maintain a smoking level 6 feet height. normally extracting for 85%, and the makeup, it has to be maintained with a 15% for the makeup air to be provided. Okay. The makeup air, we talk about it in details. The air exchange, we talk about it for 6 air exchange per hour. For the smoke, in case of fire, it has to be 12. Inspection for the smoke management system. Creating inspection, it has to be tightening for the smoke leakage within the network itself, and simulation for the extraction of the fan with a smoke pump or smoke generator of the system. Measuring for the inspection for the extraction and the airflow. Checking for the duct leakage, allowing 5% of the fan capacity at 50% static pressure. Checking the BFD setting for the pressurization system to maintain the pressure of the stir pressurization fans through the BFD. Checking the dampers for the opening for the damper, if it is motorized damper or with a fuse link. Dampers should have a label. Checking the leakage. Checking the full system for the operation for the sequence of the events, starting from the smoke detectors, connection for the fire alarm system, fire alarm giving a command for the dampers, shutting the air condition system, air handling units, and start extracting the fans. All the systems should be connected from the emergency power supply system with the fire rated cables. Checking the leakage of the fire barriers, which is the doors, as a smoke barrier to avoid any leakage of the smoke between the fire zones. Maintaining the pressure test and maintaining the pressure leakage. Applying the pressure test and assuring the leakage of the smoke barriers, especially for the doors. Having the door open force and the force bar to be tested, especially for the staircases, opening for the staircase in case of fire. Maintaining the 30-pound maximum force applied for the door to open, and the 15 pounds for the bar. For the dampers outside, operating the smoke fans and the axial fans and checking the airflow for the extract fans. The tightening and the pressure test for the doors, especially for the FM 200, applying for the FM 200, and this kind of leakage test, and we'll check it for when we talk about FM system in FPA 2001. Simulation for the smoke test by the cold generator for the test. Assuring about the smoke extraction and making a simulation with smoke test extraction. Checking the barriers. If you have a curtain wall, smoke curtains, dropping for the smoke curtain to control the smoke. Documentation for the test, providing all the copy of the documentation for the test. Copy for the interim and the final air balance report. Commissioning. General commissioning for the system, proving for the system functionality. Checking for the airflow. inspection for the compartment and making a functional test for the fire itself. Presence of the authority having jurisdiction for the smoke management and applying for the smoke test physically on site. It could be one of the tests to apply for the called smoke test with the smoke generators. They might ask you, sometimes they ask to make a simulation and running the smoke with the extraction detection of the smoke detector and smoke extraction fan, and checking the fire dampers and they see the smoke how it is running. Especially for the big areas, not if they are testing for the office area or the buildings, they are not applying, but if it is industrial area with the work structure and the storage with the open area, so they might ask for the smoke simulation with the cold system. It could be generating the smoke by a smoke bomb or smoke generators to create it as a smoke for the test inspections as well. Definitely, during the commissioning, the interface with the fire alarm system, with the smoke detectors and manual detectors. During the commissioning, it has to be connected to the simulation for the mimic panel of the fire alarm, which is reported to the fire control command centers, indicating which area of the fire and the location of the fire dampers and the situation of the fire dampers as well. And that's it for the smoke management system. The smoke management system, they are not asking about QCD when they are coming for the inspection, asking about the simulation, the interface, checking for the fire dampers, the ratings, the locations, the access panels, etc. When you are making the submission, should be reflected within the layout plan, matching with the fire zones itself, where is the location of the damper, what is the fire rating, what is the control for it, how it is interfaced with the fire alarm system. As an example, they are asking about the definition of the damper, the passive and active component, active systems, definition for the speed for the jet fans, the control for the jet fans. They are not asking about the design parameters itself. Can we go for NFPA 101? ما في مشكلة، ناخذ 5 دقائق راحة. تمام. This one, the NFPA 101, would be the interaction reflection from the QCDD guidelines that we have. For the mechanical engineers, it's a little bit light concentration. Mainly it is for architect and civil engineers. For electrical and mechanical, number of the question as well, it is coming for you. As will be certified engineer for the civil defense, you have to apply and maintain the requirements for the civil defense within the means of egress and escape routing as per your design, as per the civil inspection physically on site. What is the requirements for the NFPA 101? NFPA 101, it's each chapter around 40 or 44 chapters and an NFPA covering over 140 pages. We cannot make it in a study, and the civil defense they are not asking about. Civil defense, if you refer to the guidelines of civil defense, they are asking in many areas related to the needs of egress and escape routing for the corridor walls, for the stairs, for the routing, for the enclosures, etc., for the doors, referred to NFPA 101, chapter number 7, which is talking about the needs of egress. And this will be our focus for the classes for today. I hope it will not be very material for you as mechanical engineers, but we have to focus on the point where we are questioning. That's why I'm making this slide and taking into consideration what is the main question coming from QCDD, which area they are asking, and how to take it there. And I'm not talking in detail for the widely for the old classification of the needs of egress and the chapters, the requirements, etc. It is related to architect building, but for us and for mechanical, I'm taking the section where it is required. Introduction for this one, it is started by 1916 as a part of NFPA. It is talking about the purpose for this one to provide escape routing for the people occupant within the building to escape safely from the building in case of abnormal conditions. For the case of fires, covering all the explosion, earthquakes, and the smoke, toxic vapors, whatever hazard conditions and the abnormal condition within the building, we have to provide a safe escape routing for the people to go outside from the building. Number one, it has to be connected for everywhere of the buildings itself, taking as a corridor, routing safe to the exit till the exit discharge. Some of the question is coming, what is the purpose for the life safety code to be provided? To provide a minimum requirements with due regard to the functional of the design, operational maintenance of the building, and the structure for the safety of the life. Okay. The purpose of the code itself, it is coming in the first part of the NFPA 101. Any section of the NFPA, they are coming in first chapter for the general, second for the purposes, and the third for the definitions. This is a normal structure of any chapter of NFPA. If you don't remember where is the question, where is the definitions, go straight for chapter number 3 for any of the NFPA. The purpose and the requirements introduction, go for chapter 1 and the chapter number 2. Okay. Sometimes you are asking the question, what is the purpose for the life safety codes? What is the definition? And this is categories of the questions itself. NFPA 101, latest edition, it is 2018. It is a state of the art for the egress requirements for the stair marking and the emergency light. So we'll talk about the egress requirements, the staircase marking, and the exit way marking, and the emergency lighting as well. It is coming in more than 400 pages, 43 pages as well. Our interest for this one will take it mainly for chapter number 4 for the general requirements of the means of egress. Chapter 7 talking in detail means of egress, and the 40 for the industrial occupancy. Sometimes they are asking the question for it, especially for section 40.2 for the means of egress related to the industrial occupancy. You will find some difference of the requirements for the means of egress, relaxation for the existing buildings renewal, and for the new construction. And they are developing every 3 years, giving a new revisions of the NFPA code. And you will find some relaxation for the door widths, the corridors height, the projection for the false ceiling, the width of the corridor and the door, etc. Different from existing building and the new construction. For the existing, they are relaxing the requirement. The most stringent it is coming for new construction. For the civil defense questioning, normally they are asking for the new construction, not for the existing building, unless they are clearly indicating for the existing building what is the requirement. The means of egress is consisting of 3 compartments, 3 points. Number 1, access for the exit itself. Number 2, for the exit. Number 3, for the exit discharge outside the building. Let's start with chapter number 4 for the general requirement. We'll talk about the number of means of egress, unobstructed egress, and awareness of the means of egress and the like. Number of means of egress, as per NFPA, it has to be with a minimum 2 numbers of means of egress. Could be single exit is acceptable with the 9 conditions of the QCDD as well. If they are asking for the question, what is the minimum required? It's 2. For the number of 50 up to 500 occupants. More than 500,
You add each 500.
each 500 one. اوكي. You are linking اللي بندرسه على ازاي تطبقه عندك على المشروع.
لا عن
بالطباعة.
كان في قبل في شيء كل 30 شخص بزيد شيء. العرض تبع
above 2000 less than 2000.
ايوه على حسب الستير كيس اذا كانت الاوكيبانسي 3 ستوريز more than 2000 people. بس هي بتتكلم على 3 ستوريز على الادوار نفسها. طيب. Unobstructed egress should be the means of egress should be all the building continuous without any obstruction. No lock or fastening is permitted all the time for the building. Means of egress, you cannot put any furniture, any storage, any equipment. You cannot install any permanent lock for the exit doors. It is not allowed to be provided. Civil defense, when they are coming, they will take a tour within the building from up to down, checking all the means of egress, and if they found any furniture, any storage area during the renewal, during the inspection, it will be a comment to release it. Awareness about the means of egress, you have to provide indication for the exits itself, and it should be visible everywhere from the building with a minimum distance of 40 feet. You have to see from the 40 feet, 13 meter, 15 meter, you can see the exit itself as an indication. The exit and the markation could be illuminated or could be with a sticker, but if it is not illuminated, you have to provide emergency lighting on the top. Every exit shall be clearly visible for the route. This one talking about the exit itself as a sign. But within the means of egress, you have to provide directional exit sign everywhere. Part of the life safety plan, they have to indicate the location of the exit. They have to provide the location of the directional exit sign, right, left, up, down, of the layout plan, reflected on the emergency lighting for the electrical part, reflected physically on site where it is indicated. Each means of egress and each entirety should be arranged and marked so the way or the place of the safety is indicated in the clear. Talking about chapter 7, it has 15 sections inside. Not all of them is important for us. Maximum will go for the number 10 for the marking of the means of egress. The other, it's mainly related to the architect. We'll not talk about it within the mechanical class. Let us go for exit access of the corridor. To access the corridor of the means of egress. So this is first number 1, number 7.1 for the general. And you see I'm trying to link the NFPA section itself with the definition with the part, so you can easily refer to this one when you are checking for the NFPA chapter 7. The exit for the corridor, it has to be minimum 1 hour fire rated resistance. And it has to be used for the exit and should be separated from the building all the time. Separated from the building by walls having not less than 1 hour fire rated, which means the exits and the corridors, it cannot be circulated from the building, taking a corridor and getting a pass through another restaurants or cafeteria or lockers and continued in other part of the building. It has to be dedicated from the building, isolated from the building, free, without any obstruction, 24/7. The exit enclosures itself. An exit enclosure shall not be used for any other purpose within the penetration interfacing to use as an exit. Not allowed to maintain any equipment as storage, as lockers, as furniture is not allowed. Even as storage underneath the staircases is not allowed. Whatever furniture, equipment cannot be stayed in the means of egress. The means of egress, we have to maintain it and protect it with a fire rated as well. So the sections for this one, even the ceiling and the carpets, it has to be maintained clear. The ceiling and for the enclosure and the finishing should be according to section 10.2, which is talking about the walls and the ceiling for the main thickness should not more than 0.9 mm should be accepted. To assure that there is no combustible material source of the fire will be contained within the means of egress. Even the flooring itself, whatever carpet, flooring, or moquette, it has to be complied with the standard ASTM D2859 for the flammability and the combustible materials as well. So not allowed even to have it unless it is complied with ASTM standard for flammability. The purpose for this one, to minimize the risk within the means of egress for the walls, cladding, ceilings, and the floors. The headrooms required for the new construction, it is minimum 90 inch with a projection from the ceiling not less than 80 inch. And you will find these figures, it is compliant with the QCDD as well. For the headroom, for the existing construction, they are relaxing for the ceiling height, not less than 48 inch with a projection from the ceiling not less than 80 inch. Fixation for existing construction. This one to allow a clear head for the people to scale. For the walking surface itself, the floors. The floor, the concept to have it level the floor without any differential of the projection, differential of the levels itself should be exempted, not allowed as maximum as you can. In case of any change of the level within the walking surfaces and the levels, you have to clearly identify. Starting even from 1/4 inch up to 1 inch, it has to be filled 1 to 2 steps. We have to make it smoothing of the levels. 1/2 inch. This one. If it is increased, it has to be treated as a changing of the level. A change of the level, like a step or a ramp, it has to be well indicated within the image. Putting a sign on the wall exactly as a step or with a ramp with emergency light on the top, so the people they can be aware of the changing of the level. This one is a special cases or the treatment for the change of the level. But the concept, it has to be pre-level. Okay. Furnishing and decoration with the means of address is not allowed. Move furniture, fixed furniture, decoration is not allowed. Even on the walls, decoration, pictures, etc., not allowed within the means of address for the corridor. The purpose for this one to minimize the confusion and giving a clear direction for the people to notice where is the direction for the exit so they can. Minimum width of the doors, 32 inch. 810 is a clear width of the doors for the means of address. Doors itself, as an architect, civil defenses, they are treating the door as a system. What does it mean, system? Hinges, supports, locks, handle, door closure, a frame. It's a system. The minimum width for the clear width for the door, taking out the frame and hinges, should be 32 inch minimum for the new construction. For our submitter for the civil defense, have to submit certificates for the all components of the doors. Okay, showing even the leakage of the door, the gaskets, showing the hinges, fire rated, the handle, the frame, the door closure, and should be certified and approved from a brand pre-approved from the civil defense as well. Common question is coming. The door width is a minimum requirement. Exceptional for the door is a room is the area is less than 70 feet, very small door, with a person doesn't serve mobility implement, we can relax the door width up to 24 inch. If the door is serving a building or a portion which doesn't require accessible for mobility services, it can be relaxed for 28 inch. For existing building, it can relax the door for 28 inch instead of 32. So this is a 4 figures. Any question? If they are asking about the minimum door width, 32 inch, 810. What is the corridor minimum?
1.12. 1.12.
This is for the stair.
91, 92,
915 mm.
115.
يا خوفي يجي لك في السؤال 900 910 915.
لا وفي واحد يجينا That's the case. الفين 200
285
85 لاندنج مش لاندنج
الهيد كلير.
لاندنج
Components for the means of egress are the components. First one, the door to access the means of egress and the corridor. The standards or the basis for this one, it has to be side hinge from one side. If we have a swinging door, it has to be opening in the direction of the exit. And the marcation for the exit, it has to be, if it is a swing door, in one side, in the direction for the exit itself, to avoid any confusion. The minimum width for the door, 32 inch. If I have a swing door or double deep door, one of them, it is used for the exit. The dimension for this exit lead, 32 inch. For the swing door, be part of the means of egress for the traveling. Either it is part of the where the door is part of the exit enclosure, or where the door it is serving high hazard components. Revolving doors, okay, we'll talk about locks, latches, and alarm devices. And the principle for the NFPA, doors shall be arranged to be opened without any special equipment or keys or tools. Some of the doors which will be connecting for the means of egress and the stair escape routing, it has a magnet lock, has a keypad, access control. In case of fire, access control panel is connected with the fire alarm control panel, resetting and releasing all the locks and access control magnets for the doors allowed to go outside. Any permanent lock is not allowed for the doors. A panic bar or the push bar, it has to be provided and covering a distance not less than 50% of the door lead width. Okay. Normally, we are putting the panic bar with the full, which is the push bar. Okay. It has to cover for an area not less than 1/2 width of the door itself, and it is required not more than 15 pounds for all. How to comply with this one? Providing a data sheets and the catalog for the panic bar from the manufacturer showing the openable doors, and be ready during the test for the civil defense inspection. With the force bars, you will apply the force and see how it is compliant with 15. Minimum 800 or 810 from the projection from the finished floor levels. The stairs itself, to access the stairs, should not be exceeding 3/16 depth from the adjacent ceiling. To reach from the corridor to the stairs itself, should not have a difference of the level more than 3/16. Few millimeters is allowed. The stairs itself should have a handrail, and the handrail should be solidly connected to the walls without any projection from the handrail to avoid any engagement of the loose clauses itself. You can see here the stair itself is connected to the wall, and any projection for the handrail is not allowed. It has to be continuously. Handrail, it has to be provided on the both sides of the stair. This is how it is shown. Connected for the walls from both sides. No projection is allowed. Only spacing of 57 millimeters to allow person to handle. The height of the handrail itself, it is vary from 34 inch 800 up to 38 inch in height. 800 860 880 الهايت of the handrail is the minimum and up to 116 is the maximum. Even they are giving the details for the stair itself, for the landing, for the heads, for the projection, for the straight line, how it will be. Capacity of the means of egress, it is not part of our study and the questioning, but just to give you that there is figures for the capacity of the means of egress depending on the loading factor, which is calculating as per the occupancy natural, if it is hotel or residential or office. This one related mainly for the architect, and we have a different tables for it. So it's not part of our calculation, and even it's not a questioning for us. But for you as a certified engineer, you have to be assuring that when architect engineer they are submitting, they have to provide the capacity calculation for the means of egress. If you are interested more, I can share it with you. The tables, how they are calculating the capacity for the calculation for the capacity of the means of egress, what will be the area per square feet per person, depending on the occupancy itself. There is a table collected from the NFPA. Can share it with you if you are interested. But I did not share it as a part from our study material. Like this one, for example, for the stairwell capacity, whatever capacity of the persons, 120, the nominal width of the stair, 36 inch, and the clear width between the 128 and the effective width accordingly it will be 24 as a calculation of the effective area of the stair. And how to calculate the number and the width, it's a different part for architect engineer. Numbers of the means of egress, it is minimum shall be 2. Feeding the capacity from 50 up to 500. More than 500, it has to be 3. More than 500, it will be one more. Arrangement of the means of egress, it is part of the architect, but at least for 2, we have to make it. As an example for the layout plan, if it is full open area, we have to arrange it with a minimum 2. The location of the staircases and the numbers, it has to be allocated to based on the capacity and the number of occupants discharged from the building, not to concentrate it all from one building, for the easy access. If you have partitioning and the separate areas, minimum 2 should be provided for each one. Arrangement for means of exit should be allocated so that the exits are readily accessible at all time of the building. It is part from the life safety plans of the architect, depending on the arrangement of the space arrangement of the building. Embedment of egress shall not be through any kitchen, storeroom, restrooms, closets, or temporary spaces. It has to be clearly dedicated for the escape. Mirrors is not allowed to be installed within the means of egress or even near to the doors to avoid any confusion with directional or the exit directional signs. Exit termination, discharge outside of the building. It has to be discharged and terminated in a public way, exterior outside of the building. The exit discharge. How to show the components for the exit access, and the exit discharge. It's a part from the architect life safety plan. We have to submit a site layout plan showing the building and the exit discharge and the assembly area with the fire hydrant, with the location of the fire truck hard stand, with the location of the fire department connections as well as a site layout plan. It is part of the submission. We will talk about it later, what we have to submit. Not only this one, Even for the layout plan for each floor, they have to show the layout plan of the floor. Where you are standing, you are here, and this is the location of the exit. Within the building itself, we have to install everywhere within the building, especially for the public area, the area of collection for the people, putting a layout plan on the wall. You are here. This is the exit routing, how to reach the exit. Emergency lighting. Providing emergency lighting connected to the normal power supply and emergency, and it has to be transferred between normal and emergency with a time not more than 10 minutes, 10 seconds. It has to be sustained with full capacity. As per NFPA, 1.5 hours. As per QCDD, 3 hours. Minimum lux should be 1 candle, 1 foot candle. Average 10.8. Should be tested and maintained with a maximum duration of months. Every 1 month it has to be tested as an emergency light. Different types of the emergency lighting could be with built-in battery, or connected to central battery system, or connected to computer network with an addressable module for each exit side. It has to be tested monthly. Either it is self-tested or diagnostic or computer-based test. Testing should not exceed 30 days. Every 30 days, we have to test it at least for 30 seconds. Annually, it has to be tested for 1.5 hours. 7 defense for 3 hours at least. Markation for the exit, it has to be permanently marked and showing the exit location and the directional. For the 7 defense, we have a chapter called NFPA 170 for the signs, for the symbols related to the architect, electrical, and the exit. Whoever interested can have a look for this one. It is showing only the graphical symbol and the signs, how to be designed and presented. For NFPA, it could be background green and the text red. For the civil defense, background is white and the text green. In English language and Arabic language as well. Should be installed everywhere for the exit and the exit main components like the stairs, providing the directional if escaping going down for the stair, on a basement going up for the stair, you have to provide the direction. In some areas where you have a corridor, egress corridor, it might have a doors which are not part of the exit itself. Like your neighbor for the offices, and it is not part of the exit. These doors will have to indicate it as a no exit. No exit should be text, and the height of no exit, no NO letters, it has to be double height of the exit. Could be in different shapes and should be well indicated. There is not use this directional of the doors as a part of the exit to avoid any confusion for the people during the scheme. The exit signs could be illuminated. If it is illuminated, so it will be subject for testing like the emergency lighting every month for a duration of 30 seconds. A special provision for the high hazard occupancy area, like battery rooms, storage of hazard area, it has to be provided with an access of traveling distance not more than 75 feet. If you have a hazard area or storage material, hazard components, we have to provide an exit for this one with a maximum traveling distance 75 feet, 25 meters, something like that. In some areas where you cannot provide a traveling distance for 75 meters and the exit very close to this hazard area within 25 meter, we are providing for exit internally from the space. So the storage area has its own exit dedicated from this storage outside the building itself, and it has to be indicated as an exit sign as well with the panic bar and the access logs, etc.
But this is in high hazard.
Yes.
Low hazard 40 feet for the group.
No, for the low hazard, it is taking the same sequence for us.
Yes,
يعني
so
this one
40 feet صح؟ كانت هذيك المسافة 40 feet.
لا it is
بين الإكزيت بين الإمرجنسي لايت. هذيك الإمرجنسي لايت.
ما فهمت عليك.
الفرق بين الإمرجنسي لايت والإمرجنسي لايت 40 feet صح؟
لا المسافة عشان تشوف الاكزيت ساين لأي مكان 40 feet، لكن الامرجنسي لايتنج الديستنس ما بينهم سبجكت إلى الكالكوليشنز بتاعتك. يعني اللوكيشن والنمبر على حسب اللابس ليفل كالكوليشن، وهي دي بارت من السبمشن فور ذا سيفل ديفense. الديزاين وفي الاسبل even during the inspection they are coming with the lux meter and checking the lux level average within there, and the diversion how long the time it is taking to divert from normal to emergency supply. For the industrial areas, the last part for us for the needs of egress, it has to be providing with existing hazard sliding doors, and it could be permitted if it has a opened by feasible length, and it should not be more than 150 inch above the floor. عشان sliding doors للindustrial area. Means of egress for sliding doors be taking in traveling distance for normal general industrial areas. For single story should be with a maximum traveling distance 400 feet. If you have multiple levels, it has to be 250 feet. So when you are designing the location of the stairs and the exit from different mezzanine and first floor of the industrial area, you have to provide it so that the traveling distance maximum should not take in 250 feet, which will limit the number and the location of the staircase and the exit. For the high hazard area, it should not make more traveling distance higher than 75 feet. Documentation for the life safety. Providing the layout plans for the life safety plans and calculations for the hazard traveling distance. Documentation for the doors, equipment, for the all materials of the wall painting, of the ceilings, of the emergency lighting, certificates, etc. Providing the exit sign and the documentation for the recording for the test itself. The last one for the documentation, providing the reporting for the elevator record and recording system, and it has to be tested and recorded monthly for the operation. And don't forget for the elevator to provide a connection between the control panel of the elevator with the fire command centers to be located with the remote unit. They are asking for now to have it a display unit having full control of the elevator, including the fire lift and the passenger lift, to be indicated and located in the fire command center with a shunt trip unit. So they can. يا إما تكون control panel in the hoist and the shaft for the elevator, but it has shunt trip units and the control in the fire command centers as well. Both of them should be provided. And this one, it's a very quick journey about the NFPA 101, focusing mainly for the area where it might come as a question for the mechanical part. That's it. Clear? We will meet inshallah on Sunday to have the last part of NFPA 2001. for the clean agent system, FM200, submission for the civil defense, and taking the samples of the questions, inshallah.
Thank you.
يعطيكم العافية. Have a nice weekend. I try to finish by 9:30. Thank you. برعاية الله.
Bye bye.
ألف سلامة.